Can you hear me?
That's well.
There's a bit of interference.
Okay. Shall I try again?
That's better.
Okay. I find I've been thinking a lot about conditions lately. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Okay. And we often say,
That's better.
okay. I find, whoa, now I'm getting it double. I'll try again. Thinking about conditions, and we often say by conditions. And I started thinking about it more and realizing that I can't, I don't really know deeply what it means. I know it's the way it is, and that because there is no self, and things occur by conditions, and I'm just wondering, is it something like with direct understanding, Panya has to be developed until Panya knows that what is being experienced or experiencing is according to what the Buddha has taught. Is it similar with regard to conditions? That with more understanding, there will be more understanding of conditions?
Is there anything now?
Yes. Seeing.
What is it?
What is seeing?
No.
It's a reality.
Right now, because there is seeing right now.
Yes.
Right? Who makes it arise?
No self makes it arise. It arises. Well, it arises, we say, by conditions.
Okay. Without the I base, can it arise?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Ajahn.
Without the I base, can seeing arise?
No.
See, that is meant by condition. They are there together, depending on the other, and arise together and fall away. And we begin to study this to learn to understand it as it is. For example, there is seeing. No one makes it arise at all, but it's there. How? How come? There must be something as much as one can begin to think about, like eye base. Without the eyes, there cannot be seeing at all. No matter what we call it, seeing or not, blind or not, but there is this moment of seeing when there's no eye base. And this beginning the understanding of condition. But there's so many conditions unknown until Buddha told us little by little to develop the understanding of the truth as no me, but there is seeing. And seeing arises by conditions. So how can it be someone or some me or whatever? Not at all. And then it's gone completely. Absolutely. Never to return, never to arise again, never be found in samsara anytime from then on. Not at all. And is that not true?
Yes.
And this is why we learn to understand what is meant by no me at all. This is the beginning to understand what we are learning about that which appears all the time, from moment to moment, different one. How can it be such that nobody makes it arise at all? Nobody can change the way it is. No one can stop seeing to arise and see now. See? And that is the beginning of understanding, know me. Because when it's there, when the reality which experiences is there, it experiences that object with the idea of who not the other, but I see. And this is the truth which is covered up from moment to moment, from life to life, long time ago, up to now. And it can be opened up to understand it little by little, only when it's there. Because the one which has gone, nobody can understand that completely gone. And the next one hasn't come yet. That's why when we hear any word of the Buddha, it's now and here. But it's not as Buddha taught, because no attention, no understanding, not thinking about it, but even thinking about it, the understanding the truth of it by oneself, because it's so very subtle, very deep. Now it arises and falls away in split seconds. Who knows? Continuously condition that which appears as nimitta of that characteristic. For example, the nimitta of seeing, because it's not one moment of seeing at all, impossible. That's why it arises and falls away so very quickly. And how can it appear? Because it's gone. And the other succeeds instantly all the time. But there are so many things in between, unknown. But it seems like it's seeing only all the time. When we are talking about seeing, it's there. But actually, so many things in between, arising and falling away, unknown, until the words of the teaching of the truth begin to be the object of hearing, considering so wisely that it can condition a little bit of understanding. But the subtlety, the truth is so deep that even it appears as hardness now, it's not only hardness, it's my hands, my legs, my arms, and so on. See, well, it's not that anymore. But that characteristic which arises, who knows, marks and remembers all the time, even right now. That's why learning the truth is the beginning of not forgetful to not forget to understand that we are learning about that which is now, but it's so very hard, very difficult to understand by oneself. That's why we need the wise word about it to understand, even the word condition. See, that's why we be in this life. So many words and many things, but no understanding of the truth of what is there from birth to death. If there's no hearing, considering, and understanding the truth right now. And this is conditioned. The sound, the word, the meaning, the truth, which one hears and considers unknowingly by not self, but that realities which is different, like that which remembers, that which develops little by little, and then there is understanding, see, by conditions, all by conditions. Otherwise, there must be the idea of self. When something experiences something, it's me. Right?
Yes, yes. So as understanding develops, more confidence and some more understanding as to conditions. Because if there isn't an understanding of no self, the I will always be there.
And this is the beginning of the way leading to the end, enlightenment, the truth of this moment, very naturally, daily life, because each moment cannot be taken for anything permanent, but ignorance clings so much, so very tight that no one can take that away. Only understanding of each moment developed, accumulated to next and next understanding more and more, little by little, very gradually, because it's not just the self can do anything, the self try to understand it. It's more clinging to the self. So very tricky that no one knows the trick, the trickiness of Lopa.
Mm.
Even it's now, see, after seeing 3 moments, it's there. Who knows? But without that, how can there be I all the time?
Without clinging, you mean? How can there be I all the time?
Yes,
Yeah. You said,
because there is clinging to that which remembers. Who knows? It's not I who remember. It's not I who hear and who marks and who understand from word to word, from moment to moment. All are not self, not me, no one. Only the arising and falling away of conditioned realities.
mm-hmm.
No one.
You,
There's no I who can change or who can do anything at all. Just understanding is not ignorance. Attachment is not aversion. See, everything is different by conditions.
mm-hmm. You said something a minute ago, something about when the object, I guess, of thinking is words the Buddha taught, that is a very small beginning of understanding. And I guess what I understood from that is that prompted because of conditions, the thinking about what the Buddha, thinking about not just what the Buddha taught in abstract, but in terms of something happening now. Like if one suddenly remembers, for instance, seeing, yes, there's seeing now, and there's seeing now because of the conditions we've talked about. There's visible object, there is the eye base, eye consciousness, and there must be passa and the like. If that arises spontaneously, that has to be based on some kind of understanding, or that's because of some kind of intellectual understanding. Is that accurate?
I think that there are so many words that it's not known at all, and not the object of understanding. If we keep on thinking, and what we think, not the Buddha's words about the truth of it, it's one's own thought accumulated to think like this. That's why how difficult to understand reality as not self. That's why if there is thinking about many words, not understanding just one word at a time, it's impossible to have the moment of understanding it better. For example, if we don't talk about seeing or conditions, can there be any understanding of this moment as conditioned reality? That's why the best thing is to just talk about one word which represents one reality at a time. So clear or clearer and clearer enough to understand that it's not the other thing. Like seeing cannot be hearing. And what is what you said, concept? Is it sweet? Is it hard? The concept? See, if you don't talk about just one word, it's not clear at all about the truth of it. What is there? See, and what is concept? And what is the absolute reality? Unknown. Because we keep on thinking about so many things accumulated with the idea of self and ignorance, just thinking about it with ignorance. not understanding what we're saying about. For example, concept. What is that in truth? Is it sweet? Is it hard? Is it soft? See?
It's an idea, yeah.
Okay, what is made by idea?
I'm sorry?
What
I
is
didn't get
meant by idea?
a concept.
Okay, not
But
the
it's a
wrong
concept based on
understanding.
a reality.
Just one moment will lead to another moment, and at the moment. Otherwise, can there be concept without seeing?
No.
And not at all. See, that's why when there is seeing, no understanding the truth of it. So it's taken for something, right? For
Yes.
example, talking about visible object. See, it's not easy to appear as just visible object because there's so many moments, and when they arise and fall so very rapidly, how can just only one be known? And no attention, no words to talk to understand it at all. So it keeps on like this from life to life. But when there is the word of truth, the word comes from what? Without hearing, can there be any word? And what is heard? Not the word, but the sound. But sounds so different that the reality which knows the different mark performs the function of marking each one as it cannot be the other one. And the difference is what we say for each different reality, each different moment is there. From one to one, it's so different, not from 10 to 12 or 200, but only one is different from the other.
Mm.
So can the seeing this moment see or experience only that which can be seen right now? See,
Yeah.
but no understanding because it looks like something with like a doll, hair and lips and on and on and on. See, and without seeing from moment to moment, how can there be the nimitta, the sign of something like the eye, the eyebrow, and the fingernail, see, and so on in a split second is there. So what appears as soon as one opens one's eyes, something, not only visible object, even its only visible object is not known as that which is seen, only reality that can be seen, that cannot be taken for anything at all. Before it can be concept, there must be the reality, the experiencing, the
Yeah.
object which is experienced, and the rapidity of the succession condition the marks of shape or form of something, and it make known as it is what? The doll is not a human being, and that is concept.
Mm.
So are we living in the world of concept?
Yes.
See? And without the absolute realities, there cannot be concept, right?
Yes.
So concept is the object of thinking. And it depends on what citta is there, which thinks. So many ideas as the concept, see, as concept of something, and condition the different ideas. The tukka, see, lizard, the fly, the star, the moon, see.
Mm-hmm.
And could I just add a word or two, please, on your original question about conditionality and how we say everything happens by conditions, which of course is correct, but it's a slight generalization, or shall I say extrapolation from the teachings, because in the Buddha's teaching, it is a teaching about the conditionality of realities, not of
Yeah.
events in the world, right?
Right.
And that is why, as Ajahn was explaining, this conditionality comes to be known by the understanding of realities themselves.
Yeah.
It's an aspect of understanding of realities that when that
Yes,
understanding is sufficiently developed, it begins to see the conditions that are at work at the time. So to get to your example of a spontaneous attention to
Mhm.
seeing as being a present reality, and then thinking about, well, what are its conditions? It needs eye base and so forth.
Whatever it is that arises spontaneously in terms of the thinking.
But even so, that thinking about the conditions is just thinking. I wouldn't say
Yes.
it's necessarily
Yes.
an aspect of intellectual understanding, because it's thinking about just what one has heard about conditions,
Mhm.
as opposed to maybe the attention to seeing at that moment is more a direct understanding or an intellectual
Yeah.
understanding that that is a reality appearing at the present moment. But as soon as one starts to think about other aspects of it, then it's no longer that same intellectual understanding.
No, I can see that. It as John said, one word at a time. It would be, well, it's very hard to do this in the abstract, because right now it's all ideas. But if there was a spontaneous thought, whatever, see about seeing, just this is seeing now. As soon as I put it into words, I know it's just thinking. You said something a minute ago, Jonathan, just about if it's seeing and there's some spontaneous idea, not idea. I can't put it into words without making it think that it's thinking. But you did say something just a minute ago that it wasn't sort of on and on about a process. It was just seeing.
Some spontaneous realization that that is
Yes.
something that is happening at the present moment.
Yes.
At
Yes.
some level, yes.
Yes.
As opposed to then thinking about the conditions that we've
Yes.
heard about that must be applicable at that moment. That's just a kind of
Right.
thinking. Again,
Yes. Yes.
about what's been heard, about book knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you put that well. Spontaneous appreciation that they're seeing now. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what is meant by the word spontaneous? Because any moment of thinking is conditioned. So does one call that spontaneous or not? Any moment of seeing arises by its conditions. So nothing happens out of the blue without conditions. That's the point. There are just realities, each one arising by its particular conditions. Thinking about seeing now, or thinking about lunch, that thinking is conditioned either way at this very moment.
Right.
And I think as you mentioned earlier, the more understanding, beginning with the understanding of what is real at this very moment, conditions more and more confidence, less and less doubt. So as understanding develops, it develops naturally. So by conditions, and that understanding leads to more and more confidence and more understanding about conditions. And when it's direct understanding of reality, there is more direct understanding about conditioned nature of those realities.
Yeah.
So it develops with the understanding.
Yes. That's as I was thinking about the subject this week, it became clear that if there is no understanding, there will be, the understanding will only, understanding of realities as no self is what would be the basis of understanding conditionality.
Right, because we think, oh, the seeing now arises because spontaneously or out of the blue or because of this or that. But when there's the understanding of seeing as just seeing, then no question of anyone making seeing arise or seeing arising without conditions.
Mm. I was also thinking of, you know, when the idea of self is right there, I can do this, I can do that, I'm doing whatever. Okay, let me see if I can remember what this is, like words of the Buddha or whatever. That is definitely, it's by conditions that is happening, but it is not with understanding of the present moment.
Right. It has to come back to the understanding of what appears now, what is the reality which experience, what is a reality that doesn't experience. And then there is that understanding, especially when it is the direct understanding of what appears now, conditions more wise reflection about other dharmas too.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Ajahn and Sarah and Jonathan.
Roti, you were making some comments. I think you had some comments to add, and also there's your question about concepts. Don't know if you're there. Roti, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you, Sarah. What did you ask? Sorry.
I just saw you put a message, a text chat message, and also you just asked a question on Dhamma study group about concepts. I don't know if you want to bring up your 2 points now.
No, not really. I have no doubts about it.
Okay. You just mentioned in the chat that you said people can say everything is by conditions, and it's the same as saying God willing.
Yeah, yeah, you can use both in the same context.
Well, and that's where I was. That's where I was coming from initially. We say it a lot, but without understanding
It can be
more
quite
about reality.
meaningless. Yes, just repeating the words,
Yeah,
but not
yes,
understanding about reality now. And wrote his other question that he just asked on DSG. I'll ask it for him. He brought up a point about concept and whether concept means that which doesn't exist. Well, concept or panyati refers to making known, and there can be concepts about realities. Like now when we talk about seeing, it's the concept of seeing, it's not the seeing itself. Or there can be concepts about what is not real at all, concept of the chair or the table. In truth, there's no chair or table. And as Jan said, if there was no seeing or no hearing, there would be no ideas about what is about the seeing or the hearing or what is seen or what is heard. But the concept itself is always that which is thought about, the idea. It's not the reality itself, it's the impression or the making known of the reality or other ideas. Like while streaming at night, all the cheetahs in those mind or processes are experiencing concepts about seeing, concepts about hearing, concepts about different fantasies, and actually it's the same now. So we live in a world of concepts means we live in the world of thinking about different ideas, different stories, different fantasies, but without the realities. there couldn't be the thinking about all those different ideas.
Yeah, I think we've probably discussed this before, like regarding that conceptualizing that exists, but the object of the concept itself, that's what is not a reality, right?
The thinking is really like when Ajahn mentioned to Anne that that's a lot of just thinking about different ideas. The thinking is real. Each moment of thinking is conditioned, but that which is thought about is not real, and it's not conditioned because it's not real. It's just that which is thought about. Like if there's thinking now about a heavenly realm, thinking is real, but the heavenly realm is just an idea, just a fantasy.
Right. So concept cannot be concept exists. So that's right.
Sorry.
Oh no. Oh yeah. Concepts do not exist, but the thinking, which is the creation of concepts, that exists.
Exactly.
Right.
And that when we talk about the thinking, we're just talking about chittas and cetasikas like Vitakka and Sanya and other cetasikas. So that's why it's good to consider each word. So thinking is just chitta and cetasika, different moments of thinking in the mind or processes with many cetasikas, especially Vitakka, leading to this idea or that idea.
So we could define thinking as having a concept as an object, right?
We have to be more and more precise. So if we're more precise, thinking has to be a reality. For example, if we say that Vitakka, cetasika, is thinking because it's the main cetasika in leading to that concept or idea, but Vitakka also arises in sense door processes. So that's why we have to talk about the different realities. Vitakka arises with every chitta except the 10
or the different thinking.
Sorry, what do you mean, the different thinking?
Probably. Well, there are various things that we could call thinking, which are not exactly the same. One has Vitakka, the other has Vikara, right?
When there is Vitakka, there is Vichara. So we can talk just conventionally about thinking. We can say, like Jum just said to Nina, to Anne, oh, there's lots of thinking now. So this is just, we know what is meant, and this is thinking through mind or processes in general. But when we're precise, we have to look at what the actual reality is, which is thinking at this moment. If there was no Vitakka at this moment, there would not be the leading of the chitta to this or that idea.
Right. Because I think I've heard in the conversations before that we say that anything which is not seeing, hearing, etc., is thinking, right?
Like in the beginning, when people are new, we say if it's not seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, it's thinking. But as we learn and consider more, we learn, well, what about Sampaticca, Santirana, other chittas in the sense door process? They need Vitakka to experience the object. Do you call them thinking or not? So Vitakka is the reality which leads, and how it's translated is not easy, because if we talk about thinking, we're just referring in general to mind or processes.
To the kusala or akusala jittas in that process.
What did you say, John? Sorry.
I said in particular to the kusala or akusala jittas in the mind or process.
In particularly? Why in particularly? Sorry, I think I missed something.
When we talk generally, when we say that when there's no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, there's thinking, it's particularly referring to the kusala and akusala chittas in the mind or process that think about a concept, an idea, because those other chittas in the sense door processes don't think about an idea, a concept. Even though vitakka arises after seeing, those chittas still experience visible object. So the concept, the panyati, is the object of the mind or chittas, the kusala and akusala chittas in particular.
Right.
So that's why with the study, there has to be more and more considering and more understanding one word at a time. Otherwise, we just hear a word like thinking, and it seems obvious what thinking is. But in reality, what is thinking at this moment?
So would you call the moment right after seeing, which is experiencing still experiencing the seeing through with vitakka in it? Can you call it thinking or not?
So usually we don't.
In that case,
yes.
So in that case, vitakka is not. We cannot say that vitakka is thinking.
But it's the main factor involved in thinking. But we have to understand that vitakka arises even at that Panchadwara Vajana chitta, the first chitta in the sense door process before seeing. Even that chitta needs vitakka to lead to the object. So this is why we have to consider that our conventional ideas of words like thinking are not precise enough. That's why we have to understand more about the realities and when, for example, vitakka arises, in order to really get rid of the idea that there is an I that thinks.
Right. So
Not hear you.
cannot hear.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
When we talk about thinking, I think we're referring to the citta. It's citta that thinks. And the citta, of course, is accompanied by mental factors also. But it's the citta which we say thinks. So it's got to be certain kinds of citta rather than specific mental factors that are thinking.
So that means that seeing is thinking.
Say again?
That means that seeing is thinking.
No, only certain jittas, though, are thinking. So some jittas experience sense door objects, and other jittas think about the sense door object that has been experienced. And those jittas which do the thinking are the kusala and akusala jittas arising in the mind or process.
So are there more than 5 chittas that can be considered involved in thinking?
Well,
yes,
thinking is not a specific Dhamma term. It's a conventional term. So we're using conventional language.
So if we want to be precise, probably we cannot use conventional language, right? If we want to be precise.
In order to get the precise meaning of the conventional language, we have to speak about realities. Which realities are being referred to?
And well, it's the citta that does the thinking, no vitakka, no thinking.
Right.
Right, that's why.
There must be vitakka, yes. And if there was no sanya, there would be no thinking about that object. Why thinking about Roti's glasses and not thinking about Jonathan's glasses. It's because of sanya, which is marking the object, conditioning different thinking about different objects. But just different citas and cetasikas arising and by conditions. No one can choose what to think about.
I thought I heard or understood that you know, how concepts are formed up, but concepts again lead to ideas. Is there what is the distinction, or is there a distinction between concepts and ideas? I think, yeah, I think there must be.
Concepts are ideas. They make known about life or about what is seen, what is heard, but they're ideas, they're impressions, which are formed up. When we say formed up, it means the thinking thinks about them, the thinking which is conditioned because of the experience of the different nimitta of different realities, countless billions of times. So like while dreaming, why is there the concept of this fantasy rather than that? Because of the experience of so many nimitta of different realities, but they are ideas or impression.
Years ago, I remember asking about democracy or a concept like that. So, I mean, I realized none of them are real. But what would we in sort of conventionally thinking would call abstract.
Right. So concept of the abstract. It can be concept of the reality, concept of chair or table, which seems to be based on reality, and concept of democracy. But if nothing had been heard, nothing had been seen, could there be any concept or fantasy about democracy? Like a small baby doesn't have any thinking about democracy. So it's what has been heard, what has been seen always. And that thinking is accumulating all the time whenever it arises with the kusala vaikusala citas. That vitaka, that sanya is accumulating, ready to condition thinking about democracy rather than something else. Like now, because we just heard those sounds, conditions to think about democracy by conditions.
And that conditions memory, previous objects of thinking.
Like if you said the word democracy in Thai, there would be no conditions for my thinking to think about democracy and what it means, but because it's a familiar term one's heard before many times, the sanya marks it and conditions thinking about that idea.
And it will condition thinking about that idea from that idea having been marked many, many times.
Those sounds have been marked and remembered, and the thinking about those sounds has been marked and remembered, and it conditions, there is the accumulation of thinking about those sounds and meanings. So without hearing those sounds, no conditions for thinking about that idea.
Right.
Jan, did you have anything else you would like to add to any Roti's questions or any of the points?
What about the truth of those moments? Does anyone see the attachment of each moment when there's no understanding of the truth? and the idea of something, the story of something, of Democrat or of what, this and that all the time, what is there? In order to understand that actually there's no one at all. Does it bring about the understanding little by little about the realities at that moment? They are sorry, thinking, just keep on thinking about everything, not about that which is now appearing. So the story takes one away from understanding what is there now. But after those moments, there can be the understanding. They are gone completely. But the thought about it, the attachment, aversion, or whatever is there, are accumulated to condition next moment, which can be thinking again about anything by conditions, even thinking. We change the story, see, by conditions. Every moment is by condition, just nothing, and then something, and then nothing again. If we understanding this better and better and better and better, it can lead or bring us to this moment, little by little, to understand what is there as it is. Because even we talk about hardness as not self or anything at all, but deeply in mind, when there's no understanding of the characteristic which is not there anymore, the idea of it's there is still something is there, like my leg and my arm. As long as there is I, there must be something belong to me. My hand, see, my, when there's no I. So thinking is gone, everything is gone, all day, depending on conditions. No condition to think about what is heard and can develop the understanding from even thinking that that is only hardness, but that subtly it's so deep to know that it's not there, even at moment of touching. It seems like there is touching, hardness appears for some time, but actually not for some time. It arises and falls away all the time. And this is understanding which can develop little by little only at moment of understanding the characteristic of that which is now appearing, but not yet the direct awareness and understanding the truth as we have learned, because the accumulation of understanding is not enough. That's why our dhammas, everything is not self, it's not any permanent thing, just arise and falls away. It's there only when it appears, but deeper than that, even at moment when it's there appearing, it's not there, just arising and falling all the time. And this is the truth of Dhamma. In order to have less and less attachment, to let go, to understand the purpose of studying the teachings, to understand what is there now. But now it's so very, very short. But Panya, right understanding, begins to come closer and closer and closer to the characteristic of the absolute truth as it is, no self, no thing. Everything is gone. But the understanding of vitaka, of concept, and of everything which we have talked about are accumulated to condition moment of direct awareness. That's why we learn more and more to understand what is what. Just to know that they cannot be taken for self or anything permanent at all. That's why it's better to study just one word at a time, so that we can understand better that it cannot be self, like vitaka. it arises with what citta, and it cannot arise with what citta at all. By conditions, see, all by conditions. Even the attachment to the self is so very strong, but from hearing and understanding little by little, it will lead to moment of understand directly of the truth of it. For example, the word just very simple, everyone understands the meaning, like nama and rupa. That which experiences is different from that which cannot experience, but they do not appear as they are, like the succession of the arising and falling away, condition sanya to mark and remember the difference of each moment, to know that what is that, even there's no word yet. See, so many degrees of understanding of the truth, which is covered for long time. That's why just learn to understand that the more we know about the truth in details, it can let go the idea of self when there is wise attention or wise considering, by not forgetting that no one there. Otherwise, it's I there. Who knows? Who can understand that? But the I understand. See, not the reality which experiences. So we know the purpose of talking about the truth of reality, not just to understand the words, but to understand the truth from the very beginning. If there is no understanding the characteristic of nama as the self, the rupa as the self, how can there be the understanding of that which appears next life or tomorrow, on and on? That's why each word can bring about the understanding of the truth of this moment, the truth of this moment. No more is gone. So we understand that we live in the world of ignorance so long time ago. So it's not easy to have less lopa and ignorance. That's why even right now, Panya can begin to be aware with right understanding. Otherwise, without intellectual understanding, there cannot be condition for right understanding directly with right awareness, or direct awareness and Panya together. Not only Satipatthana, the direct awareness without any understanding. That is not Satipatthana. So at moment of understanding, know me, so what is there? So many realities. There is sati as well, but not at level of directly understanding what is there as it is, as no self, but understand this characteristic, the story, and the way why it cannot be taken for self, which can condition the direct understanding of what is now. And Panya, right understanding, understand the difference at that very moment because it's there. So, what is concept again? See, we can talk about it. But what is there at moment of talking about concept, or take that which appear as concept, not as a reality? So without that which experiences, there cannot be any concept at all. But when there is that which can experience, it arises by conditions, many realities arising together, depending on each other and far away, but each moment is different. So the different moment of hearing, considering, and understanding is different from moment when there's enough understanding to condition the moment of understanding the truth of what seeing right now. See, visible object, the truth of it. Does it appear as visible objects? It appears only to panya, not from any attention or desire to understand it, to try to make it just that which can be seen, but it is the understanding of the moment of actually that which is seen must be that without the idea about it as something. And we understand the concept, see, how come the chitta at that moment think, otherwise there cannot be concept. So we talk about vitaka and so on, just to understand that it's there all the time, but it cannot arise with seeing, see. So it means that how short seeing is and how very little. Actually, it seems like it's not important at all. But actually, itself is conditioned just to arise and see. That's all. It's not its function to make any story about politics and so on, but it just arises to see and then gone. Otherwise, there cannot be the understanding of that which is seen as no one and nothing, and so very, very short. Because by learning about the process, we see that there must be so many processes at moment of taking it for something, make known as something. So it's real life, each moment, until right understanding can understand what is there of each moment by conditions. This is the understanding of the anatta-ness, to let go the idea of self when there's understanding only, little by little. And this is the one noble truth, the fourth one. And who knows that only right understanding is the beginning of the walking, taking along the way, which is so long to directly experience the truth which Buddha had enlightened. So what we're talking about, the details, it will bring about the understanding of this movement closer and closer to this movement by condition. But when the direct awareness does not arise yet, it's impossible even to think how it is. Just like Nama and Rupa right now, how it is arising and falling away, experience just of that which arises and falls away in split second. Only the nimitta can be the object, even of that characteristic, not concept yet. See, deeper and deeper to the truth of this moment, even hardness and that which is not hard, but experiences hardness. No one. So how can there be someone or something permanent in a day? And this is the way to let go wrong understanding, ignorance, attachment to that which is not known as it is, but as different things. And this is the distinction between the absolute truth and concept. So it has to be one's own understanding which develop from moment to moment, different levels each moment. Like the wearing away of the knife handle, who knows, from moment to moment. That is the moment of letting go again. But very little, and it has to be only by understanding the characteristic of our reality, which is not self either. No one at all. The letting go can begin with no one, nothing. Only that which appears is there and then gone. Otherwise, one cannot understand what is the path, the noble path, the noble truth. Not doing anything, not trying to go somewhere in some place, but the truth is now. Until Panya is there of different levels. So there is seeing right now, the understanding that it's not me is so true, but the way to directly experience the truth, that it cannot be taken for anything permanent at all, has to be developed so much, so great with patience, parami, and satya, and adidana parami, with nekkhamma parami, letting go. Is there any moment of letting go now?
There could be, if there is sufficient, if Panya is arising now, but so subtle we wouldn't know.
Only Panya can know, right?
Right.
Otherwise, it's thinking. And who is thinking? See, so deeply there. 3 moments after seeing, 3 moments after hearing, 3 moments after tasting, see.
The self is thinking.
And this is right understanding of the truth. And it's gone. And what about after seeing moment again? That's why when one understands about no self and remember that the goal, the destination is to experience the truth, just to let go the idea of self and things permanently, never to arise again.
Roti, you sent a comment which said that when Ajahn mentioned to take that which appears as a concept and not as a reality, that you don't understand what she's trying to say. I think there has to be the understanding of what is real now and what is concept, what is not real. If the idea, the fantasy is taken for reality, for example, the table or chair is taken for reality, then there's no understanding of what is real at this moment, the hardness that is touched or visible object that is seen. I think that was the point. So what is a concept has to be understood as just an idea, not the reality, not the chitta which thinks or the seeing which sees at this moment. And if thinking about visible object, if there's the idea that that is the direct understanding, that is taking concept for reality too. So there has to be the understanding of what is real now in order to understand what is just an idea. So it all comes back to understanding what appears at this very moment, no matter we're talking about democracy or hearing or any other topic. There has to be the understanding of what appears in reality right now.
And also, I think Ajah's comment highlights the fact that what we think we are seeing is not the reality of the visible object, but is a concept of the visible object. So that's the first step of acknowledging, as it were, that the visible object is not currently being known. What is appearing is a concept of the visible object, not the reality.
We can't hear you, Roti.
Now that I read the sentence again and that you explained it, I can see that I listened to it like in a different context. Like if you would say to take that, like if you would say like the other way around, you know, like to take that which appears as a reality and not as a concept. Well, yeah, I don't know what I understood anyway, but it's,
they're all concepts, they're all ideas anyway. So
yeah.
That's the point, that just the thinking is real at this very moment, the seeing is real, the hearing is real, and the rest are just different ideas. No matter it's an idea about Dhamma or an idea about democracy, it's still just an idea. So that's the world that we live in most of the time. The moments of seeing and hearing are so brief. So most of the time there's thinking about different ideas, different concepts. And the only way that that can be known is by the understanding of reality at this moment.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
So what we think is the seen is in fact a concept of the seen. What we take to be the seen is in fact a concept of the seen. And from that, I also conclude that what we take to be seeing is a concept of seeing too. What we take to be seeing at the present moment, the experiencing of the assumed visible object is just thinking.
Can you explain a little more about that?
Well, if what is appearing is a concept of the visible object, not the visible object itself, then the experiencing of that concept cannot be seeing, it has to be thinking.
Yes.
So just as we now understand that what we take for the seen is in fact a concept, and likewise what we take for seeing at the present moment is something else. It's thinking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tom, are you there? Do you have any comments about democracy or thinking about democracy and Loba at this moment?
It's just conditions. It's just lots of aversion, right? And attachment. Too much thinking.
Yeah. Clinging to different stories and ideas, and that conditions the aversion when they're not the way we would like them to be.
Yeah, it doesn't really upset me that much, but yeah, I stay away from TV where they do the rage machine type of stuff, so yeah.
It's helpful to know that it's just a fantasy world of different ideas and dreams that we're living in most of the time, and that the reality is just the thinking right now, the attachment right now, the dosa right now. The problem is not Trump or what anyone has said or done. The real problem just comes back to the clinging right now, the thinking with dosa right now.
I don't think everybody's the same. I don't think Trump is the same as Biden. And I think we have to work for trying to get good leaders. But that's kind of a separate world.
It's still there are just the six worlds, the idol, eardor, and so on, and it's still just thinking about different leaders and thinking what would be best, and it's all there by condition. So different people have different ideas of what will be best, but it's all just thinking regardless.
We just got a very immediate reminder that life is in a moment. We were sitting down to dinner on Friday night. A friend called. Her husband had just dropped dead. She went into the bedroom and he was lying on the floor and he was dead. So we went over immediately and stayed with her. And we've been with her all weekend, just being with her. But I mean, that really brought home life in a moment.
Can happen right now. And then all those fantasies one has about democracy and this and that, all gone.
And he was a real TV addict and very upset about Mr. Trump. So I think it put him out of his suffering.
But really brought home life in a moment.
So
and as Ajahn will say, what is most precious at this moment, the thinking and dreaming about democracy or this or that, or the understanding right now of what appears, because it could be the last moment, like your friend.
Yes.
And I'm glad for his wife that she has good friends like you to help her.
I think life in a moment can be seen in two ways also. Like in a thinking about moment as something substantial, as something actually existing, and not thinking like that. Because if you say life in a moment, even though the phrase sounds very nice, it could be just the same thing, still thinking about that substance there. And substance and permanence is the same thing. So somehow the thinking about permanence is still there.
It's, again, it has to be the understanding of reality, like at a moment of seeing, nothing else. There's just that moment of seeing what is seen. That's it. The moment of hearing, only sound appears. That is a moment. Otherwise, as you say, it's just another fantasy about this moment. And Bev, and Tom, did you hear about the lady in a Dhamma session a year or two ago, in a Thai session, who was just asking a question to Ajahn, and she dropped down dead. Just in a moment too, yes.
Yes,
One moment. So it could be right now whilst asking a question, or anytime.
anytime.
but billions of moments now arising, and so we concentrate on one moment that we think about, but that's
Gone.
just thinking.
Yes. While thinking about it, as you say, trillions of other moments of seeing and hearing and thinking have arisen and long since passed.
So many opportunities.
Opportunities for a little wisdom come and gone. And have you been able to give any helpful reminders to your friend, Bev?
Yeah.
You know, well,
In a sort of back, we don't talk about Dhamma directly, but just try to talk about, in a sort of a backdoor way we do.
well, we have these friends are not in the space. I don't know. I mean, he really believed in other worlds. And he, whenever we've tried,
astrology and all kinds of things.
Whenever we've tried to say that this is a moment, he really believes in a spirit world. And so, I mean, we don't talk about that. They're good friends, but
good people.
And good people, and I mean, Tony has taken. He was ailing for some time, so even though it was very sudden, it wasn't totally unexpected. But they firmly believe in a spirit, and so this was something. Couldn't get them to think of a moment, just the moment, a reality.
The idea of realities and being things and consciousness
rises.
So indirect talking about impermanence and things like that, which they understand. So everybody does at one level.
Yes, like Roti says, like everyone can say, well, whatever there is in life, it's impermanent. Everyone knows they're going to die. Everyone knows that the house won't last forever, but it's just a conventional idea of impermanence. It's not the understanding of the impermanence of realities, but that's how it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still, you can believe in astrology and still understand permanence in the right way.
Sure, why not?
Or impermanence.
Yeah. Well, the death of your spouse, impermanence is right there, front and center. But again, sometimes people are not ready to hear what the Buddha taught, but you can talk around it. Yeah.
You give support in whatever way can be useful and helpful at the time.
Yeah. And that's what we were raking the yard and folding, hanging out laundry and just being there for her. And I think that was, it.
Being a good neighbor, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so Roti, about astrology, because I know you have some interest in astrology. What do you mean when you say that there can be?
How do you know? How do you know I have some interest in
Because
astrology?
you told me that you and another Dhamma friend have chats about astrology.
Well, that doesn't mean I'm interested in it. But anyway, yeah. What was your question? Anyway?
So my question is, you said that there can be an interest in astrology and an understanding of the impermanence of realities. Could you say more?
Yeah, I mean, you can think that the planets influence your birth and etc., and still have an understanding that about conditionality, about the arising and falling of Dhamma. So it's like you may believe that water boils because of heat. Heat makes water boil, and that's a kind of knowledge that has nothing to do with understanding or not the Buddha's knowledge. That's what I mean.
When you say, or when people say that the planet influences one's birth, so what is the reality? What is the planet that influences the birth? What is planet?
Well, yeah, planet is a concept. Also, water is a concept. And also, fire is a concept. If that's what you're talking about. I mean, in which sense? In which sense are you asking me what is a planet? In the sense of concept and reality, or in a scientific way?
We know, for example, that seeing arises now because of visible object, which is seen, and eye sense, and past karma, and so on. And the first moment of life, the birth consciousness, we know arises because of different conditions. There has to have been the preceding chitta, there has to have been the past karma, there have to be the other cetasikas arising together with it. So when you say that planet conditions birth, what is the reality of planet that conditions birth? Because otherwise,
Well, I didn't say conditions birth. I say that planets can have an influence in, like they have in another ways, the influence they have on the ocean, for example, right? Sorry.
As I understand astrology, it would say that the planets have an influence on the mental side of things. So tendencies and what happens in life and that sort of thing.
The same way, like Freud says that your mother has an influence on the way you react to things, right? So they're just different theories. They're just different theories, I think. Yeah, tell me.
According to the Buddha's teaching, it is that one's accumulated tendencies that would dictate how one reacts to different situations.
Right. Yeah.
And it is past deeds that would dictate what happens in life.
Yeah, but I don't think exactly. Yeah, I think probably I explained incorrectly what astrology is saying. It's not saying, astrology is not saying that if when you were born Mars was somewhere, that is creating certain tendencies, certain mental tendencies, or certain character. But it's saying something like, well, something like probably, I mean, that's what I'm thinking, probably like the fact, yeah, like yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was trying to say that astrology is saying that the way the planets were at the moment of birth is conditioning your mental tendencies, your character. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that sounds. Yeah, but I think it's the same way as when psychologists say, like, the parents you have and the environment conditions your character, right?
Right. Or the politicians condition one's character, but we know that the real condition is those accumulated tendencies, the accumulated lobha, the accumulated dosa from aeons ago. This is why ask those psychologists why identical twins at birth have completely different characters. They don't have an answer.
Right, but still the parents are a condition, right?
Well, this is why we have
for the further development of that character that was already accumulated.
I think that when we just talk about different ideas like parents and planets, we can never understand what is meant by the conditioned reality. That's why one has to be more and more precise. That's why I asked, what is planet in reality? Because this moment of clinging now, what are the conditions? So anything can be a condition, but in truth, we're talking about different realities which condition this moment of attachment to just the way it is.
But I think that's probably confusing like conventional reality, because for example, when we say that the moon conditions the ocean, right? The waves, the size of the waves, for example, and the influence of the moon. So why would you need to explain that? Explain like in terms of Rupa, Chitta, and Chetasika, explain moon, right? I mean, that's just like worldly knowledge that functions in that way. Or what do you think about what I'm saying?
It's worldly knowledge, it's scientific knowledge, but it's not the understanding of the truth of realities now. Like when looking at the ocean, what is actually seen is just visible object, what is touched is softness.
Right.
So in truth,
Correctly.
There is no ocean, are no planets. So it depends whether it's talking about science or talking about realities now.
But I think I'm saying it like in the other way around. Like in order to understand how the planet influence the ocean, you don't need the Buddha's knowledge in order to understand that, right? Yeah.
It can be observed. It can be observed, right? That sort of thing.
What? Oh, right.
The influence of the moon on the water. So it's by experience in life and empirical observation, rather than it didn't start with a theory and but it's just one's experience in life. Just like the order of the seasons and so forth. Just like the order of the seasons and so forth.
I still didn't hear.
I said, just like the order of the seasons and so forth. So these things are just an observation and one's experience in life.
Yeah.
Just conventional knowledge, like scientific knowledge, or Samut is such a conventional truth, but not absolute truth.
Yeah. So in order to understand,
this is a table, this is a chair. This is a table, this is a chair, this is a computer. Conventionally, it's correct and true, but in absolute terms, there is no computer, no chair, no planet, no ocean, just different reality.
So in order to understand that summer comes after spring, there's no need for any other any deeper knowledge than that. So probably that can apply to psychology or to astrology.
You know, there's a keyboard on the computer. Conventionally, one doesn't need to understand dhammas because conventionally it's all correct, but it's not the truth of realities.
So
just
to understand why I got fever or how can I cure the fever, I don't need to know if there's somebody there or not, right?
To know that this is Pine and this is Anne, it's the same.
Right.
Just sanya and thinking about different ideas and.
But I'm thinking a little bit about the question about astrology. I mean, not precisely because I'm particularly interested or not in it, but when I told Tom that you could believe in astrology and still understand the Buddha's teaching. And but now that I think you asked me how or what
you
is
meant.
astrology, now I'm doubting a little bit.
It's not based on the same sort of empirical observation or experience in life that these other things we're talking about.
There's
Right.
an idea of cause. There's an idea
Of cause and effect.
an idea that in truth the personality or the tendencies are conditioned by the alignment of the planets, not by the accumulated tendencies. So usually there is some wrong understanding involved in it.
Yeah, but for example, sometimes when the same way the full moon influences the ocean, it also influences emotions, right?
I'll let Ajahn add some comments too.
No matter what we are talking about, psychology or science or
we're talking about the way the moon, that whenever there is full moon, if it can influence the emotions.
Can you hear me? Okay. No matter what we are talking about, science or what subject, like psychology and whatever, when there is the understanding of conventional truth and absolute truth, there's no doubt what is what. Because no matter we talk about any subject, the understanding of that subject is there, but I understand. I know all the time. So what can condition right understanding? Not the moon, the star, or the day or night, but the understanding of what appears now can condition the understanding of what is the absolute truth, the Four Noble Truth. See, but before there can be the understanding of the noble truth, there must be understanding of conventional truth and the absolute truth of this very moment. As Jonathan said about, we are talking about seeing, but not that seeing is the object of understanding as it is, but understand that it's different from that which is seen. See, the story about it. So what is the conventional truth is the story about that only, but the absolute truth, no one can know before. Hearing the truth from the realization of the truth, the enlightenment of the Buddha. That's why one has no doubt about, no matter we call it science or whatever subject, it's only what is there at that moment. If there is no that which experiences, which is different from seeing, but the moment of thinking about such and such, there cannot be such idea of thinking about that, no matter what subject is there at all. So we learn to understand the absolute truth, because the conventional truth can be studied endless from 500 years ago up till 10 and then on. See, keep on going with thinking, which is accumulated to think that way. But to understand the absolute truth, begin to understand what is the absolute truth. The absolute truth cannot be taken for, I am learning about this, I am thinking about the moon and the star and the life and so on. But what is that? The truth of that very moment. This is different. And it's not only subject to think about, but it is the truth that can be directly experienced to understand the truth of it as it is, that no one can think about at all, no matter what other subject is. So it's not just talk about the conventional idea or truth, but talking about this moment. This moment is not the psychology or science, but what is there? It's there. See, who makes it arise? The beginning of understanding must be the understanding of no self, no thing. And the truth is that it's conditioned to arise to appear and then disappear in split seconds. Is that not true? The absolute truth, no matter we're talking about what, and what is the absolute truth of that, no matter what subject. What is the absolute truth of that? The gene, see, what is it? See, I, my, all the time. He, she, the doctor, and so on. So the absolute truth is hidden, but the absolute truth can be understood little by little to understand it, that no matter what, it has to be two different kinds of reality, the Nama and the Rupa. Is it true? What is that? Thinking and talking about this and that all the time? The absolute truth from moment to moment. And what is worthy to study, to know? The absolute truth or only the conventional truth? Try to talk about or to think about this way or that way. But what is that moment? Not I. The most difficult thing is that no one can try to have the clinging to the selfless, only the understanding of the truth from the words of the enlightened one to understand it. Is it true? So it's true. No one can change the truth. It has to be such like that. And that is not self either. That's why no matter what happens in life, if it's not known as not me, it cannot eradicate the idea of self, which have been studied from life to life, not only this life. But the truth is unknown until Panya developed by more confidence of no one and nothing at all. And is it not precious to understand the truth? Because actually, nothing can be taken for I or thing at all. But how much ignorance, how much clinging to that which appears as it's not easy at all to understand it as it is, as it's gone, no more. Nothing can be taken for anything because it's just appear and disappear, no more at all. And when it's the absolute truth, is it so precious in life? No matter we were born as a seer, philosophy, science, or whatever, and then what is that? Gone forever, not arise again, no more. See, when it's so true, then Panya knows what is the precious moment to have more confidence on the truth. Actually, just a moment ago, it's gone. Next moment, the future hasn't come yet. And even right now, that which appears gone and that which is future is now, again and again and again, like that, non-stop. Nobody can change. So the understanding of the truth of what is now is the most precious thing in samsara. Otherwise, we keep on thinking about this and that and see the importance of such and such, but no understanding of the truth. So it's not everyone can understand this. Only those who listen and consider and see the benefit, the worth of understanding the truth, and then keep on understanding more and more because it cannot be known completely from the very beginning. It has to take time, and not anyone can do only by conditions. That's why understanding the conditions will wearing away the idea of self and wrong understanding little by little. Without conditions, can you have such thinking about life as we talk about? What about the moon and the star and the sun? Is it influence life or what? See, only thinking, not understanding that moment of thinking. And it conditioned more thinking about that. Try to understand, search more, try to think over it again and again to understand. But what's the use? Nothing. This life cannot be next life. This moment cannot be next moment. So that is a temporary death. So the understanding of the arising and falling away can understand what we call the conventional death and the final death. And this is so true. The truth should be known, should be studied until it appears as it is, as one has learned about it. To be Satya Parami, what level of understanding is right now? Should it be developed to understand more and better? Otherwise, there is ignorance from moment to moment in life. It depends on oneself, not the other, to understand this. You cannot change the other. You cannot make the other understand or have interest in it. It depends on conditions. So each moment is conditioned moment. Anger is there. Very strong attachment is there. For what? To try to not have it or to understand the truth. It's conditioned and it's gone. And what is more effective? To let go. And not by anyone. This is more and more difficult, more and more subtle. Not by anyone try to do it. So the understanding, it depends on conditions. Without the intellectual understanding as now, no condition to understand that moment as no self. And what is the truth, the absolute truth, is gone. So all depends on one's considering at moment of hearing the truth. All are different by conditions again. That's why we understand the Sankhara-Dhamma, the conditioned realities arising, different moment, different level, different kind. And this is now, see, unknown or begin to be known. Begin to have more confidence. The moment of understanding this is a very precious moment, even a little bit, because without the understanding of this moment, they cannot be conditioned to understand in other moment. So one understands one's own accumulation when it conditions a reality there to appear, to study, to be known, or to cling to with ignorance more and more, depending on the accumulation that is condition, one condition. Otherwise, we talk about karma, we talk about kilesa. Where are they? They are now but not known. That's why when there is more considering, wise considering, just of one word which is heard that it represents the realities right now. No selection to have what to be object of understanding, all by conditions. The understanding condition more and more understanding of no self, which is the absolute truth. That ignorance cannot understand that at all. It's a rose there. How can it not be a rose? See, without seeing, smelling, or sometimes tasting, who knows what is what? And then gone, no more. No matter what degree is there of attachment or aversion. And this is the only way to let go the akusa, ignorance and attachment, unknown. Now, different cetasikas, different moment of citta arising and falling away, performing the function and accumulated. Who knows? No self at all, no me. Can that be understood? Can that be proven? But it is this very moment. After seeing, there's thinking, there's like or dislike, and other reality. Only when it appears and you take it for I hate, I like, I think, I see all the time. Otherwise, nothing can vary the ignorance and attachment. It's there all the time. We use the word all the time when we don't talk about one by one moment in a process. Is there somebody chanat now? See, is there santiranat now? Is there votapanat now? Oh, what is there after votapanat? There must be, but no understanding of any one. And that which can be understood only when that appears. We talk about attachment when it's not there. It's not known who can let go attachment. So Panya understands that which appears right now. No choice, depending on conditions. Can breath be the object of direct awareness and understanding? Each answer depends on understanding. See how careful or how very little and how rough, not clear enough. See, all are there.
Achanka, I have a question about the process of jittas you spoke about a moment ago. We have this, and we talked about it on Saturday. The seeing, that's its function, that's the jitta's function. Then there's sampatijana, its function is to receive. Then santira's function is to determine or investigate, and Votapana.
Just make way for the savana, kusala or kusala to arise. Otherwise, it's not time yet for those moments to arise. That's why there cannot be attachment or aversion after seeing at once. It needs other moments too to condition it to arise. All depends on condition. Even seeing cannot just arise, but there must be one condition of pacaya. See, anantara pacaya, not enough. Samantara pacaya. See, when it's not time, it cannot arise. And when it's time for what? Not the other citta and cetasika arising with it, but it has to be that by conditions again. So each moment in life is conditioned moment.
So what does determining mean with Votapana? What is it determining?
I think that it's Pali term and it's not easy to understand the truth by just study the meaning of the word only, but to understand the reality of that word represents. For example, Vittaka, as Kun Sarah just said before this, see, how can we use any word to represent it? Because there are many levels of Vittaka. Vittaka arises with Lokuttara citta. Vittaka arises with akusala, see, so much different. But just understand the characteristic, not in word, is better. And it can be used by different languages for different nationality, say English, Thai, Chinese, Vietnamese, so on, say. But each word cannot change the truth of that reality. That's why no matter the word you heard and you think the meaning of it in such and such way, but what about the truth? What is that? Seeing is conditioned by Dhamma, see, to arise to see. When the object is unpleasant, the akusala vipaka, the result of akusala karma, arise by such moment which has done long time ago. But it can condition such moment just to see, only see. And after that, if there is no other cetasika like vitaka to touch on that object, even it does not see, can condition the moment after seeing to be different kinds of citta. So many things to study, to condition, to consider in order to understand. So no word, just enough to represent the characteristic of the truth of each characteristic. Not enough at all. But the Buddha used the term, different words for just different level of each cetasika or Dhamma or absolute reality. Like Lopa, it's very little when it's asava, cannot be known. So very fast. And more than that, and more stronger than that, and that, until it appears. So it depends on whether there's right understanding of that moment or that reality or not. See, depending on understanding of the truth. So each word shouldn't be just take the word only as it means this or that, but its characteristics should be studied and understood. Like phassa, it's not vitaka, see, and the function of phassa is just touching. And it also depends on condition by how it can be kusala phassa, akusala phassa, vipaka phassa, or kriya phassa. See, no one at all. From more and more understanding of the words, of the truth, of reality, it can condition moment of letting go to be known. But now, even it let go very little at moment of understanding, it cannot be known yet until it's more enough. Even the kind of relief, see, we don't know how much burden the citta and cetasikas have been accumulated. Ignorance, no understanding, very, very, very heavy burden. But when the understanding is there, it let go a little bit until more understanding. So we understand the moment of letting go, pleasant moment, relief moment, when it's there only. When it's not there yet, we don't know. We think that there's no burden at all. But the burden to understand seeing, see, because seeing is the burden which will bring about lots of heavy things as akusala, craving, clinging, so strong, unpleasant feeling at moment of trying to have it, see, unknown all the time. And these are conditions for next and next and next moment, on and on. So the word just talk about one reality, but the understanding of that reality cannot just by know the meaning or the translation of that word. So we can understand what is a function of avachana. It's the moment of making way that kusala or akusala, which has been accumulated, can arise after it. Otherwise, when there's no panchattvara vachana or Manotwara Vachana, Kusala or Akusala, or the Kiriya Chitta of Arahata cannot arise at all. And Dhamma is Dhamma. That's why it means no one. So there's no one who can control or who can change it or who can make it this way or that way at all.
Azita, I think the translation determining, just forget that translation, because it's just a Kiriya Chitta and an operative Chitta. It's not Kusala, it's not Akusala, it's not Vipaka. It's just one Chitta, because the Vipaka Chittas before it cannot be followed immediately by the Kusala or Akusala. It needs the Kiriya Chitta to arise in that process before the Kusala or Akusala Chittas. So it's just one Chitta that makes it possible for the Kusala or Akusala Chittas to follow. And that's why actually it's the Manodwara Vajana Chitta that has that function. But it's just like the making way, like in one of those games where the ball goes one side or the other side. So it just makes it possible for the Kusala or Akusala Chittas to arise. So forget about the translation. And we know for those Kusala or Akusala Chittas that arise, that the conditions are there must have been the Chitta before. And the real main condition is, as we've discussed, the previous accumulation of Kusala and Akusala. The reason Lobha arises now, or in a sense or process, the reason the subtle Lobha arises is not because the Chitta before has determined it. There has to have been that Chitta before, and that Chitta has to be followed by this kind of Chitta. But the main condition is the prior tendency of Lobha. For the Arahat, who has no more Lobha, even in a sense or process or mind or process, the most subtle of Lobhas cannot arise, even though there is still Bodhapana Chitta arising in the sense or process.
I
So
think
it's
that
just one inoperative Chitta.
Okay, yes, that was one of my queries about it, was that how come a Kiriya Chitta determines, but you've explained it well. And now there's no knowing any of this unless there's understanding. And when the understanding is really weak, there's no knowing if it's understanding or not without having understanding.
But like we discussed at the beginning with Anne's question, when there is a little more understanding that these different Chittas arise in the process, and each one arises, performs its function, and without the prior Chitta, the next one couldn't arise. So gradually there is more understanding of the conditioned nature, that no one is involved at all. There are just these different Chittas that arise in their correct order, performing their particular functions, conditioning the next one. And those moments of Kusala or Akusala that follow that Kiriya Chitta are also conditioned by the tendencies from long, long ago. So gradually there's more understanding of the conditioned nature of each moment of Lobha now, each moment of seeing now, each reality. It's actually about right now. So it's not the reason that there is a moment of kindness or a moment of disturbance now. It's not, we cannot say it's caused by the Bodhapana. It's not determined by it, but that Chitta prior to the kindness or disturbance is a condition, because it's the Chitta that has to have fallen away in order for this Chitta with kindness or disturbance to arise. So it's gradually by understanding about different realities, not the conventional situations of moons and stars and so on, but by understanding about realities, there is slowly the understanding of the truth of anatta and the conditioned nature of dhammas.
I think we're at 6 o'clock. We're at our time now. So we continue next week. Thank you. That was really interesting,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
ขอบคุณมากค่ะ
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Ajahn.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคน
Rika,
ค่ะ
Tanaka.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ